Hello there, friends. It's Miss Eliza, Children's Librarian at the Waukee Public Library. For this week's Elementary Maker Monday, we're continuing with our Inventors theme, doing projects that have to do with some famous and awesome inventors throughout history. So today, we're going to talk about two simple experiments inspired by Benjamin Franklin, who is one of our most legendary inventors. And one deals with his famous experiments with electricity, and that's the one we're going to start with. And then later in the video, we're going to do some invisible ink inspired by Benjamin Franklin. So for this experiment, we're going to be talking about static electricity, which you might have experienced in a whole bunch of different ways. If it's dry outside and your hair kind of starts to rise up, that's static electricity. And so we're going to do an experiment using that today. And all you're going to need is a paper plate. You're going to need a plastic spoon. That's the most important piece. And then if you got this little kit from the library, you've got both salt and pepper right in your little packet, but you probably have these at home as well. So you can use whatever you have. You just need a little bit, maybe a tablespoon or a teaspoon, probably not even a teaspoon. And then you might want some things that can conduct static electricity. So like we said, there's going to be a little bit of static even in the air anytime normally. But what are some things you can think of that might help conduct electricity or make it more present? So that's why I've got my little friend, this kitty cat puppet. He's nice and fuzzy and kind of woolly, so I think that might be a good way to conduct electricity. Other things that work really well, you could use a sock, you could even use your own hair, you could use a carpet or a rug if you have one of those at home. So we're gonna try just a couple things here, but when you're doing this project at home, you can try rubbing your spoon against a lot of different things to see what works best. So let's get started. You're gonna just put your salt and your pepper on this paper plate. Just dump it right out. And kind of mix it together with either a fork, or you could even just use your finger. You just kind of want the salt and the pepper pieces to be kind of mingling together on your plate. All right, very good. So now we're gonna start testing the electricity component. All right, so you can see we've got our salt and our pepper on the plate here, and it's kind of going all over the place, and that's okay. I'm gonna move some of it to the center just to get a good idea about it. And then you can try just with your regular spoon that you took out of the package. You move it over the plate and you can see nothing's really happening. Nothing's really moving, right? So now we're going to try to get some static electricity onto our spoon. So now we're gonna try rubbing our spoon so that it gets some static electricity. So I'm gonna rub it really fast on Kitty for just a few seconds. I would not try this on a real life kitty. I would not do that. And then we're gonna hold the spoon over the plate. Do you see what's happening? Yeah, look, the pepper flakes are attracted to the spoon. And that is from static electricity. So you can keep rubbing, keep trying, and again, you might want to try some different things and see what conducts the best. What we're trying to do is get enough static that it can also lift up the salt. Now, why do you think that the pepper is attracted to the spoon before the salt crystals? Yeah, because the salt weighs more, right? So we've got some pepper on the back of our spoon, but so far, not so much salt. All right, so we just tried this experiment using Kitty to help us conduct some static electricity, and we were able to pick up some pepper flakes, but not the salt yet. So I'm gonna try to get a little bit more static electricity going so that hopefully we can pick up that heavy salt on there, and I'm gonna use my hair. So you can just take a piece of your hair, and it works especially if it's nice and dry, and then rub the spoon right on it. Just back and forth, and you can see my hair is almost floating away too, so I know I'm getting some static on there because my hair is flying away, just like it does in the winter. Like if you take off a hat, a lot of times that'll happen. And then when I have the static all on here, we're gonna try, whoa, Look how much it's picking up now. That really worked. That's strong static electricity. So how this works is that the spoon, as we rub it on the sock or the hair or our little stuffy or whatever we're using to conduct electricity, that makes a negative charge onto the spoon. This becomes negatively charged. The salt and pepper are naturally positively charged, and the negative and the positive are drawn together. So as soon as we put a negative charge onto the spoon, the positivity in the charge of the salt and pepper is drawn to the spoon. Now, we noticed that the pepper flakes were easier to draw up onto our spoon than the salt, and that's because they just weigh more. So you need a stronger static electricity to pick up something that's heavier, regardless of the charge. They're still gonna be drawn together, but it has to be a strong enough charge to pick up the weight of the heavier object. So the salt crystals weigh more than the pepper, and so it took a little bit more static to be able to pick them up. So you can try this with different things around your house. Maybe you have a wool blanket or a quilt or some knitting or different stuffed animals. You can try rubbing your spoon on all those different things and see what's the best conductor for static electricity. And if you want to watch how to make some invisible ink, stay tuned. All right, friends, so our next experiment, inspired by Benjamin Franklin, is going to be to make invisible ink. So Benjamin Franklin was really interested in ways to send secret coded messages during the American Revolution. They didn't want people to be able to tell what was going on or get any information about what they were doing. So he had a whole lot of different things that he suggested that people could do to make their messages unreadable to the regular viewer who might come across it. So he had some complicated different languages he wanted people to use and several ways of making invisible messages. And one of the things that he suggested was to use lemon juice or any kind of citrus juice. So what you're gonna need for this project is a little bit of juice. And so if you got a pack from the library, you've got these little lemon packets, but you could use anything that you have at home, any kind of juice, even milk could work. So it's just gonna depend what you've got. And then you're gonna need a little cup to put it in. You're gonna need a Q-tip or something else that's got some absorbency on the end that you can write with. So a Q-tip works really well because that's what we'll use to write our message. And then you're gonna need some paper, one sheet for your message, and a couple other sheets to help protect it from the iron. So you'd want to put this over heat, and in the Revolutionary period, they didn't really probably have an iron, but we're gonna use that today because it's the easiest one to show on camera. So we're gonna start by just putting our lemon juice right into a cup. And you don't need a whole lot. So you just wanna put a little bit right in the cup so that it's easier to grab from. And then you'll put your piece of paper that you want your message on in front of you. And we're just using regular boring computer type paper, but you could do anything you wanted. If you had a card or like a special origami something, you could do anything. This message works on any type of paper. So you're gonna put that down in front of you. And then when you wanna make your message, you're just gonna dip your Q-tip into the lemon juice. Make sure that it's kind of absorbing on the end, which it is. And then you'll use this kind of like a pen just to write out your message. So I'm gonna make a message real quick. All right, so I wrote out a couple different messages, and now we're gonna try to expose them. So as you can see, it looks pretty much just like a regular old piece of paper. So if you found this or you picked it up or you got it in the mail, you'd be like, what? It's just blank, what's on here? But if you knew the secret code that they were using, you'd know you need to heat this message up. So we're gonna put the message down, I'm going to put it down, and I'm gonna put a couple pieces of paper under it just to protect the table so that I know that it's not going to damage it. You could also, if you're at home, of course, you could do this on an ironing board, which would also be a really great idea. But since I'm at work and we only have a table, I'm just gonna put a couple pieces of paper down to protect the table. And then we're gonna take our hot iron. So we're not gonna use the steam setting. We're gonna make sure that it's just on high, medium high. And then we're going to use this on our message. So we're gonna go over it, and we're gonna do that a couple times. So you have to remember that they didn't really have these irons back in the Revolutionary times. So if they were doing a secret message like this, how do you think that they might heat the paper up? So they might do like an open flame, which we know is a little bit dangerous because paper is definitely flammable. But they could have a candle and hold it above that at a bit of a distance, or before an open fireplace. So it's a little bit dangerous to use those methods. I think an iron is a little bit safer. Other things that you could try to heat this up, you could hold this above a toaster. If you put the toaster down and then hold it above at a safe distance, maybe using a pair of tongs, you could try heating it up that way. You could also, if you have a lamp at your house that has a light bulb that gets warm, you could also hold it above the light bulb. And it does take a little while. If we were using an open flame like they might have done in Benjamin Franklin's time, it's probably going to be hotter and it's not going to take as long to reveal the message. But using an iron or one of these other methods, it does take a little while. So I'm going to keep ironing and hope that my message starts to appear. It will take a couple minutes probably just because of the heat transfer, and then we'll see what happens. All right, guys, it's been about 10 minutes that I've been ironing my message, which seems like a really long time, but you have to remember that in Benjamin Franklin's time, first of all, they would have been heating it up over an open flame, so it would have heated up a little bit quicker. And also, they didn't have like text messages or Twitter or anything else. So this was the fastest way to get a secret message. If you couldn't talk to somebody, they didn't have a telephone. So you would need to send a message, like a letter in the mail. And if you didn't want people to read it, it would be worth it to write in invisible ink, even if it took a couple of minutes to reveal, because you would know that your message would get there safely. So let's see if this has revealed anything. Oh, backwards. Can you see? I know it's a little hard to see on the video, but this is a letter H-I and an exclamation point and a little sun up here. My message says hi, which is not very secretive, but I was just trying to show how it works. And you can see that the places that I drew with the lemon juice are a little bit darker. And that's because the lemon juice is an organic compound, and when the heat interacts with it, it starts to break down a little bit, kind of like if you microwave something for a really long time and it starts to get kind of mushy, or if you're cooking and as you heat things up, they get softer. So that's kind of what's happening here. The lemon juice is interacting with the heat, which makes it break down. And then the reason that it turns color is because when it breaks down, it's releasing carbon. And when the carbon interacts with the air around us, it starts to oxidize or turn color. So it's kind of like when you cut open a piece of fruit and it starts to interact with the air and turn brown a little bit pretty quickly. So that's what's going on here. So we went from an all white piece of paper with no message to a piece of paper that we heated up, and you can see the message right on the paper. So it does take a couple minutes, and depending on your heat source and how much lemon juice you used and how long you waited in between, it might take a little bit less or a little bit more time, or the ground you cover. This is a pretty big message just to say hi, but if you were writing really carefully and really small, it would probably show up a little bit quicker. And that's something that you can experiment with at home if you have some more lemon juice and a little bit more time to be writing secret messages. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.